What's happening, Bob?
What's happening is that we're sat below. Why are we sat below? We're sat below because of the weather. We think that we missed a vlog yesterday. Today is day number 11. It's day number 11 and we think we missed number 10. And the reason for that was that the weather came in. It was pretty rough, windy. It was either a gale or near gale, which doesn't sound much, but in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean, the seas build up, becomes very uncomfortable. And if you're sailing on the wind, which is what we've been doing, if you're sailing towards the wind howls like a banshee through the rigging, and it all becomes a little bit dynamic and uncomfortable. It also makes being out on the deck all of the time untenable, unless you absolutely have to be there. We have had waves swamping across and crashing into the cockpit and going out of the cockpit again. Nothing hugely dynamic, but nevertheless, 50, 100 gallons of water at a time. And so we're choosing to be below just for a little bit. We go up top every now and then to check to see if there are other ships, and in fact during the night we did see our very first ship of this trip. He passed some distance off, but very clearly saw his lights, which was good. The lights would disappear beneath the waves, the incoming waves, and then reappear momentarily and then go again. The last 48 hours, apart from being dominated by the weather, it's also been dominated by the smell of diesel. And I think there's very few things that are more insidious at sea than the smell of diesel. It makes you feel sick, it makes you very dizzy, gives you a blinding headache if you get too much of it. And we have had a heck of a lot of that on this trip. And I think it's because for the first 10 years that we had the boat in the water, she was actually in temperate latitudes. The last few years, the boat is rocking and rolling. The last few years she's actually been in the tropics over in the Caribbean. And I think the effect that that's had is it's made the boat begin to rust a little bit in places, just on the inside. Nothing that we can't fix, but she's never had that before. And it's made various rubber and plastic fittings, etc. Crack, dry out and crack. And that's what's been happening with the fuel and the fuel leaks. Well, actually the first 2-3 fuel leaks that we had, that wasn't the case. It was an installer's bad judgment or lack of competence, if you like. But the others that we've had, one particular one that we've had, has definitely been a question of pipe drying out and cracking. So we've had this smell of diesel in the head, which is just there, absolutely overpoweringly. And eventually there's one compartment in the bilge beneath the head which is inaccessible. So I had to get the one hacksaw blade that we've got and a battery drill a couple of holes with the battery, and then spend probably an hour and a half, 2 hours hacksawing to cut a hole, a hand-sized hole into that compartment. And as sure as heck there's a bunch of diesel down there, but also mixed with bits of water. And the reason it's mixed with bits of water is the other problem we've started having on the boat, which we've never had before to any significant degree, is a few deck leaks. Nothing wrong with the structure of the boat. Wherever you drill a hole in the deck, sooner or later that hole is going to leak. And once again, being in the tropics, I think it's dried out to some degree, and it's made the couple of deck leaks that we have worse. However, there are a couple of them that we can trace very directly to these derayed vents. We have 2 derayed vents just up here. These round holes in the ceiling. I'll go and point to one in the deck head. I have one there and one the other side. Whoa! One the other side as well. And they've both been leaking, and they shouldn't leak. You can close them down and they should blank off, but for some reason they don't do it properly. They're a very high-end quality one, probably the best on the market that you can buy. I won't name the company, but they simply don't work. And we've had 2 recently installed in the aft cabin, and at least one of those has been leaking as well. And there's nothing wrong with the installation. It's the It's the actual thing itself. It doesn't close down. It's a mushroom vent, stainless steel mushroom vent. It closes down onto a rubber gasket, and it just hasn't worked. So that's been creating drip, 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 actually onto Nikki's bunk, actually onto her head during the night, which is a little bit irritating. It's made a sleeping bag that we're using at the moment, it's made it a little bit damp, and made one of the pillows damp. So all of that is a bit irritating. However, you can either ignore those things and just put up with it, or you can try and find out what it is. So we had a damn good go at finding out what it is. Ripped down bits of headlining and traced where these things are. What I've done about the dorades here is that I've been on deck and I've covered the dorade vent with a very high strength plastic bag and gaffer taped it, or masking taped it, so that nothing can come in through the actual dorade cowling. But of course it comes into a dorade box which has little drainage vents at the bottom, so I've had to get some epoxy putty and squeeze that into each of those vents to completely make the thing watertight. So it looks like that's helped. We've been taking seas directly across the deck, so obviously it's exacerbated the problem. It's been very apparent that we have this problem. So I'm hoping that that's stopped that problem. It did mean a little bit of dynamic deck work today in particular. Out there being sloshed around all over the place. What was that yesterday that I did that? I'm losing track of the days.
Today.
Have you missed a vlog?
Today.
It was today. Being washed around on the deck in oilskins. It was quite dynamic. Kind of good fun in a boyish way. So that's what we've been dominated by. And then we had another leak which has been dripping down over the galley over here. And on taking down the headlining, I found a vent pipe, which is down in that space there. We used to have a second fuel tank, a diesel fuel tank, which itself was always leaking. It's down in this space over here. It was always leaking. And so clearly that had to go. In a mad fit of temper the one day, I just cut the whole thing out and threw it into a rubbish skip. And thereafter we had a very nice galley reinstalled and a proper cold box installed over there. But I neglected to actually seal its vent, which goes up to a little vent hole on the outside of the cockpit coaming. So where the seas have been breaking aboard, that's been coming straight down that vent and off of the end of that cut off piece of pipe. So it's relatively easy to fix. At the same time that I did the dorade cowling today, I got some more epoxy putty and I went and squished it into the vent on the outside of the cockpit coating. So that solved that problem. At least we hope it solved that problem. Excuse me, the thing's falling all over the place. So another thing, I guess, is the course. We've been at sea for 10 full days now. We're into day 11, so it's about 10 and a half days we've been at sea. Some people make this entire journey in that period of time. Well, we still have 591 miles to go out of a 1,260 mile journey. We still have 591 to go. We did 99 miles yesterday in 26 hours actually, over that last 26 hours, and the previous day we did 81 nautical miles. So we're doing about 80 miles a day, which doesn't seem very much, but it's not bad given that we've been going directly into it, into some quite strong winds. So we went north, almost due north, actually east-northeast. Or actually no, north-northeast, north-northeast from the Azores, and we had to come a few hundred miles before we picked up westerly winds, and we're now following those westerly winds, which have been largely on the nose. So it's been a slow old journey, and we still have, on our planning average, still have another 6 days to go. So this could be a journey that's taken 17, 18 days, and some people do it in 8, 9 or 10 days. And indeed this boat could probably do it in 11 days with fair winds straight there, so it'll have been a long journey. So lots of frustrations, but for all of that there are still delightful moments. Yesterday when we were soaring away trying to get into mopping stuff out of the bilge there, suddenly heard all this clicking and whirring and you probably know what it's going to be. When I went up top to throw some dirty water over the side, oh my gosh, there were dozens and dozens of dolphins all around us, and they stayed with us for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
2 hours, yeah.
Pricing.
Couple of hours, long time. And they were either talking to each other or trying to talk to us and wondering why the heck we didn't respond. And they come out very, very close to the underside of the yacht, and you can hear this through the hull of the yacht. And this being a steel boat, you can hear it very, very clearly. And it just went on and on and on. And then during the night last night, we had it again, but only for a very short period of time. Probably just one coming over and saying, "No, they're still not talking to us. No, it's pointless going over there. Ah, leave them alone." So there you go. Skipper's got his appetite back a little bit. Had a sudden craving for crisps or chips and consumed an entire big bag of them. So that's coming back, which is good. It's been feeling very ill. I think it's more down to the smell of the diesel though than anything else. Much less. Still need another go in the head there. So in order to use the head, conclude this particular one, we've been having to do this. It's one of the things that just fell on the floor. Whether you're going in there to clean the bilge or to do other business, one has to put one of these on. And right now, I have to go and do some other business. So. It's come to something when you have to use a gas mask to use your toilet. What can you say? See you tomorrow. Mr. Bigglesworth is okay.